Hey, Jonathan here. Welcome to part 3 of this series on how to make a video sharing app in Flutter. Last time we saw how to build a basic interface and sync it through Firebase. And today I'm going to focus on actually transcoding the videos using a cloud function and a third-party API called Publitio. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to init our functions. So I'm going to create a new folder and call it Cloud Functions, which is just a nice way of separating the Dart and the JavaScript code bases. So cd cloud functions, and here I'm gonna run Firebase init functions. I'm gonna proceed here, use an existing project like we did before. Let's find the relevant project. And for now, we're going to select JavaScript. I don't want to use ESLint. I'm basically just pressing enter. Yes, install dependencies. And it's done. And now we can check out the code of the functions that's here. So it's empty, and let's just do a test deploy to see that everything is working. Firebase deploy only functions. Now we might have to upgrade the project type. Okay, your project must be on the Blaze plan. So let's go to our Firebase console, click functions, and we see this message here. We need to upgrade the project. So we see now you will be charged based on your usage. So there's still a pretty large amount of free usage. So in functions, I think it's like 2 million a month, and so it's more than enough to run a free hobby project. So now that we have this message waiting for your first deploy, we can start writing the function code. Let's run this demo deploy once again to see that it works. Okay, deploy complete. Let's go refresh this page. Now we need to install the Publitio SDK. Publitio JS SDK. This will just simplify the whole credentials with the HTTP request to the API. Okay, so now we can start writing the actual code. So the first thing we need is Firebase admin. And the Publitio API. Not Publitio. default. Now we need to create a new instance of this. So now we need to send the Publitio. We need to send the key and the secret, and we will take them from the environment variables, which is the proper way to store these well, basically any SDK keys. So we need to now add a new file .env in our functions folder, and let's put these two variables here. And now, if you don't already have an account in Publitio, you can create a free account using the link I will put below, or you can just go to the website, create a free account, and I'm gonna go to the click on the API here, and this is gonna give me the API key and secret, which I then can put here. And save this. So this file shouldn't be checked into source control, because you don't want it in your Git history. Okay, so now let's write the first actual function. Now this will be a trigger function that will happen when a new video is being added to the Firestore. So functions.firestore document videos, and this is the video ID placeholder ID on create. So this is the on create Firestore trigger, giving it an async function with this snapshot and the context, which will hold the IDs of the document added. Functions. So this is the same Firebase functions. So now in the on create, let's get the bucket of the Firebase storage. I'm getting this out of the admin function. Bucket out of the admin library, and I'm gonna get the file name out of the context. So context.params.video ID. So this means that whenever a video ID is being added, the video ID, which is basically the key in Firestore, will be sent via this parameter. And video file. Now I'm creating a reference to a new file, to an existing file in Firebase storage, and this is how we structured the saving of the files in storage according to the file name. So now we have a storage reference and the file name. So now we can expires, new date, and this is an expiry date for the signed URL, which we're going to create in a moment. This is going to change, so I'm going to change it to var or let, maybe. New JavaScript. Expires, set time. I'm going to give it, so there's 60 seconds, 60 minutes, and that's milliseconds. So that's an expiry time of an hour to upload the file. And now creating a download URL. Get signed URL. So you can see the autocomplete here, and this is a Firebase function, and the action is read. The expires is what we said before. So as you know, in JavaScript it's not super important to add these separators at the end of the lines, but just need to choose one idiom and stick to it. So now we have the download URL. This returns an array, but we only need the first one. So I'm just going to take the first one. And now we're going to call the Publitio API. So let's define a variable data, and we're going to try to call the Publitio API upload remote file. So this is a function that you can send over a URL to Publitio, and it then pulls the file from that URL. So I'm going to give it the Firebase download URL that we already have. No privacy settings, but I am going to give it the option HLS so that we can enjoy the changing bitrate according to the device and network connection. And I might just give them a message so we can see the logs later. If there are bugs, we can go to the logs, to the function logs. I'm going to show the data code. And I'm going to show the error in case of an error. And so now in case of success, I need to check if the code is 201. Excuse me. So now we can actually change the status code that we've set previously as processing in Firestore. So videos. I'm actually going to use doc with string interpolation, which I like better, and context params. Now we have the video ID from the parameters, from the parameters, and we're going to use set to finished processing. data.url stream. And I'm going to save the thumbnail, which is also returned from Publitio. Thumbnail, aspect ratio, data. So I'm going to calculate this in order to use it later in Flutter in the client. And Publitio ID, so this is the ID that is saved in Publitio, and we need this in order to delete the file when it's deleted on the client side. And of course merge true, because we don't want to delete the original. That's it. And after this is complete, because that means that Publitio already has the file, so we don't need the file that was saved on storage. Bucket file name .delete. So now what happens if it didn't succeed? The status is bad, so I'm gonna log this console log, upload status successful. Let's log all the data objects so we can get a lot of information in the logs. And that's it. So we can now test if this works. So now that we have all this code, we can basically go ahead and deploy it to the Cloud Function. But before that, I want to go through a quick process of refactoring, because I really don't feel comfortable just deploying a whole bunch of new code and just hoping that it works in the cloud. So what we want to do is have an ability to quickly run this code locally. So what I like doing is, regardless of whether you want to set up an emulator's environment, create a service file and just put all of the actual logic into a function and export it from the service. Upload video is an async function. It gets 3 parameters. It's the admin, the snap, and the context. So these are the same snap and context that we get from our trigger function. The only difference is we can't use the admin here, because this is initialized for us automatically with all the credentials in the environment of the Cloud Function. So now I need to await the video service dot upload video, and I'm gonna send this the admin, which I get from here. And as I said, it's already initialized in the cloud environment, but in order to locally test it and debug it, we are going to need to get the credentials in our test. So let's use the Publitio here as well. And so this admin is used from here, and all the rest just stays the same basically. And yeah, okay, so now this refactoring is complete. This should work the same. And now I want to test it locally and quickly debug to see that everything is working as expected. So let's create another folder out here. Let's call it tests, and this will contain a new file, test.js, and this file will we'll have to require the video service of our functions folder. So this is what we just created. And actually I think I forgot to require it in the main one. So this is just in this library here. Yeah, video service. And we have to initialize the let's write the test first. So I like to do a run test function because then I can use async function run test. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is basically simulate a trigger function by using an ID of a file that actually exists. So I'm going to copy this ID, video ID, and I'm going to initialize the snapshot by calling Firestore. No. We need to yeah, okay, I'm going to initialize Firestore in a minute. Doc videos video ID. So this is so this should be the same snapshot as I have in the trigger function. And now I need something to simulate the context. So this contains params and a field name video ID, and this is what we have used here. So this is to simulate that. And now I can just await the video service, upload video. And the only thing left is to initialize the admin. So how are we going to do that? In order to do that, we need to download the credentials file from our settings page of the project and create a service account. So generate new private key. Now we need to be careful with this because this allows access as an admin to your database. I'm gonna put it in the tests folder. And I'm going to copy the initialization code from Firebase. So we have the admin here, and this is what we're going to send to the function. And we have the credentials, and we need to replace the path with the file name of the credential files we just put here. And we have the admin initialized. The only thing we have left is the Firestore. And now we can use it as usual. Now I'm going to run this from the debug menu and select Node.js, run current file, and just to see if everything is initialized correctly. We can look at the debug output here. Great, so we have the snapshot, and we can step into the code. You can already see the benefit of being able to debug the Cloud Function locally. Bucket name not specified. So we have the we forgot to initialize the bucket name from the initialize app function. So we need to give it a storage bucket. So how do we get the storage bucket? That's our app spot. So now we need our project code, which I believe is here, and we're just going to copy the project name and add it to the app spot thing. This should hopefully work. Running it again. Okay, step into. Let me just put another breakpoint. Okay, bucket initialized. File name. Extracted successfully. And already I can see a bug here because the file name is actually not the file ID from Firebase. And because there is no such file name, what we need to do is get the file name out of the snapshot video name field. So I can add a snap watch here, snap data, and I can see it has the video name field, and this is the key of the this is the name of the file in storage. So let's stop this, and this would have taken us a lot of time to debug on the cloud probably. So the video file name is the snapshot.data.video name. Okay, now let's put the breakpoint here and run again. So we're getting an error, the action is not provided, which is a typo. And now I'm going to correct it. The action is read. Run again. So as you can see, I put a breakpoint inside the actual Firebase storage code in order to see if the action is being read correctly. And this is one of the benefits of being able to run this locally. And now it's working. And the download URL exists like so. It has an expiry and a token signature. Let's continue this and see if upload to Publitio works. Okay, data code unauthorized. It's probably because we forgot to copy the env file into the test folder. So what we actually need to do is not initialize this inside the service, but send it as a parameter from outside, because we have different methods of loading the env index. We can close this, and this will go back as usual. Now I'll just send it as a parameter. This is from the Cloud Function, and from the test I'll have to do the same thing. But use .env. As you see here, I've added a line .env, and I'm going to initialize it. So .env is a library that we can install. First, we need to run npm init in the test folder. Doesn't matter. And now npm install .env. This is going to save in our package JSON. Might as well install Firebase admin as well. And of course the Publitio SDK will also need to be installed in the test folder. Installing Publitio. So the last thing we need to do is change the settings of our launching. Add configuration, node, JS, launch program. So /cloud functions /test JS. And the reason I'm doing this is to set the working folder. And now we can just say test.js. Remove this, and this will allow us to load the end file from the correct directory. Now we can see the key and secret were loaded correctly this time. So now let's continue debugging, and we should reach the breakpoint here. So now we're gonna run the actual Publitio request. This might take a few seconds. And now we can see the data return status 201, which means the file was uploaded. And now I'm gonna see if the updating of the Firestore doc works. And we can see the document was updated with the Publitio ID, the thumbnail URL, and all these fields. So that worked well. And the last step would be to delete the storage file. And we can check it here. And we can see it's deleted. So great. So now it's working. I know I can be confident to upload it. Firebase deploy only functions, and this is really a better way of writing functions. It also lends itself very well to unit testing this code because it's extracted to its own function, and it's just a better way to work. And now, just to wrap this chapter up, let's run the Flutter app again, and we're gonna show. So in the video item display, we asked if the video is processing. We are showing just an empty container or a circular progress indicator. And now what we're gonna do is display the thumbnail of the video once it's finished processing. So as we can see, there's now an empty space above the item, and let's replace this with an aspect ratio. And the aspect ratio will be 1.5 because that's the aspect ratio of the thumbnails that are created by Publitio. And so now I'm going to put here a fade in image. So when the image is ready to be loaded from memory, from a network, it's going to use the image which is thumbnail URL of the Firebase object, and fit box fit.cover, and just add some commas. Now the placeholder is going to be a transparent image, which I'm going to add with Flutter pub add transparent image. Add. And this is the placeholder, so K transparent image. And we don't have the thumb URL because we need to add it to video info. Which will be a string, and we're going to leave it as a as a string. So now let's try to import this. Great. And now in our mapping of the Firebase objects in video list, we need to add to this function the field thumb URL. Just gonna check if this is spelled correctly. Yeah, thumb URL. And this I think should be compiling now. So while this is running again, I'm just gonna make sure that thumb URL is a nullable, because this could be returning as null from Firebase, from Firestore, and it will crash. So now when there is no thumb URL, it will just be null. Let's go back to video info, to video item, and we need to make sure this has a value. So currently this will always have a value if video finished processing is actually finished. And we can see the fade in of the thumbnail image right here. And so just to wrap things up, I'm going to upload another file and we can see the whole process that we currently have. So later we can add an upload progress bar so we can see what's going on with the upload. But currently we can see the process in the debug console. So now this is running and it's still waiting to finish processing. So we actually need to check what's going on within the running of the cloud function, because we know it's running locally, but we don't know that it's running in production. So let's go to the logs. So this is under functions, view logs, going to the Google Cloud console. It's going to show us the problem. I'm assuming there's a problem because the file doesn't finish processing. So indeed we can see the problem. The default Firebase app is not initialized. Make sure you call initialize app. So initialize app was missing. Now I'm going to save it and run Firebase deploy again and see if it fixes the problem. Now I'm going to delete this entry so it doesn't confuse us. Go back to my emulator and start it again. So let's look at the debug console. We can look at the Firebase object being created. We can also look at the logs simultaneously. Jump to now. So we need to enable the credentials that we didn't enable yet. Go to this link and click enable. And now we can see it's enabled, so let's try again. And we can look at the function logs as it is uploading. Jump to now. So what this error means is that the default service account of the cloud function doesn't have permission to create a signed token. So we need to go to IAM. I actually wrote about it in my blog post several years ago and I forgot about it. So you need to go to IAM in Google Cloud, search for App Engine default service account, and add the role token service account token creator, right? Yeah, and storage object creator as well. storage object creator. Okay, let's add the old editor one. Save. So now we have these 3 rows and it should work. So let's select the video again. And now we can see that it's uploaded successfully using the production Cloud Function code that knows how to talk to Publitio API and get the thumbnail successfully. So I think we're gonna wrap up this chapter. Thanks for watching so far. In the next one, I'm gonna do some touch-ups on the UI and add the actual playback of the video, and hopefully it will be the last chapter. So if you liked this content so far, you can subscribe to this channel, and I'd like to hear in the comments what you think. Thanks, and see you for more. Bye.